It's time to look at some more entries in the simple series budget line of games, and today, we'll be looking at some horror-themed ones. The first game we'll be looking at is Simple 2000's Volume 113, The Tiny Ojigoku, which translates to the Mass Hell in English. It begins with Anika Suime, a high school student who accidentally left her cell phone at school and has returned in the dead of night to retrieve it. I don't know how she was able to get into the school at this hour without any faculty members to unlock the door, but I guess logic goes out the window when making a low-budget horror game. After searching the school for a while, she encounters a well-dressed white rabbit, who turns out to have nabbed her phone. Before she can confront him, he disappears into a floating looking glass, so of course, she jumps into the portal after him. Instead of being greeted by talking flowers and decapitation happy queen, however, she finds bugs. Giant bugs. A whole lot of them. But hey, that cell phone's not gonna find itself. This is a survival horror game at its very basics. You walk through each area of the map as a fixed camera angle follows you, while trying to avoid being swarmed by creepy crawlies. When that happens, Erica will start freaking out, and you'll need to jiggle the left analog stick in order to brush them off. As they're overwhelming her, the anxiety meter will increase, as indicated by the writing at the top of the screen. When that reaches maximum, it's game over. Thankfully, there are several instances where you can pick up a variety of weapons to fend your gross-ass enemies off, and buy yourself some time. There are also times where you'll need to sneak up on the white rabbit and grab that son of a bitch, usually to obtain a key item in order to proceed. The gameplay is quite repetitive, and the visuals range from dull to generic, to actually not half bad. Honestly though, I did really like this game. And that's mainly because it's not so much of a survival horror game, as it is a survival gross-out game. Granted, yes, having giant insects and other nasty critters crawling all over you is a pretty terrifying thing to imagine. At the same time though, this game's attention seems to be more focused on disgusting its audience, as opposed to terrifying them. And as someone that really isn't fond of gross-out entertainment, this game was definitely not for me. I don't like gross gore porn, I don't like seeing people grossly puke everywhere, and I don't like being forced to endure having giant gross things that should never be that big all over me. Maybe if you like gross out stuff, or are completely repulsed by the idea of giant bugs all over you, you'll find some appeal to this. If you're more like me though, then you could probably live without playing it. Trust me, you really won't be missing much. Also, Erica, I can promise you right now that your cell phone is not worth this ordeal. Just go home while you're ahead. The next game is Volume 95, The Zombies vs. the Ambulance, or, as it's known in Europe, Zombie Virus. Personally, I think that the Japanese name is a much more apt title, and you'll see why. There was once a thriving town called Sunlight City, where a young medical student and his assistant worked as researchers in the hospital. Everything was all well and good, until Sunlight City became not so sunny, and 90% of the population turned into zombies. Now it's up to you to rescue the remaining citizens, and get the hell out of the city. In order to save people from the zombie infestation, you'll need to drive your ambulance around the city, pick up civilians, and drive them back to the hospital. You have to be quick though, because if you take too long, the citizens will turn to zombies. This can be remedied by picking up syringes you can find while driving. It's also not a good idea to be too careless while driving, since banging around the ambulance too much will damage it. When it reaches maximum damage, it's game over. This can also be aided by picking up repair kits along the way. Another meter you need to watch out for is the morale level on the top left corner of the screen. As you embark into the city, the morale level will gradually decrease. If it drops to 0, you'll get a game over. Morale can be increased by dropping off civilians at the hospital. Another way, though, is by killing zombies by flying them with your ambulance. Just be careful about any stragglers on the roof, because you'll need to shake them off to avoid damage. This corpse carnage is further incentivized with upgrades you can get for your ambulance. As you pick up mechanics, they'll be able to upgrade your vehicle into a life-saving, zombie-slaughtering machine. After choosing an upgrade, you'll need to kill a certain number of zombies before you can implement it. It's definitely a good idea to get these upgrades regularly, since having to travel further away for your rescues will make things more difficult. One of the most important civilians you'll be picking up are politicians. After rescuing a certain number of normal civilians, politicians will spawn. You'll need to save 3 of them to unlock each new area. This was one I actually had a lot of fun with. The premise and objectives are simple, but working against the clock isn't a fun challenge. It certainly helps that the controls are silky smooth, whether it's making sharp turns or mowing down a horde of zombies without a second thought. The atmosphere is also genuinely pretty creepy, with a constant dark sky and creepy music lingering in the background. Definitely want to try if you enjoy vehicular cars against the undead. Jumping to the Simple DS series, we have Volume 32, The Zombie Crisis. This is a rail shooter where you can choose to play between two different characters. After choosing your protagonist, you're dropped into a 3D setting where you'll have to defeat the zombies as they come towards you. You start off with having a katana and a pistol. The katana is about as effective as trying to use a butter knife to saw down a tree, so you're much better off using the pistol with unlimited ammo by tapping on the screen. As you progress, you'll unlock more weapons, like a shotgun that's way too slow and doesn't do nearly enough damage to justify using. In short, this game just plain sucks. Presentation-wise, it looks pretty decent. I like the designs of the two main characters, and the graphics as a whole are pretty good for a budget DS game. Even the music isn't too bad on the ears. Everything else, though, is only slightly more fun than watching grass grow. The environments are dull and repetitive, and the gameplay is mind-numbingly easy. Sure, it works as intended. I can't say I had any trouble with shooting where I wanted to, but the enemies are repetitive and predictable. It sure feels more like a monotonous chore than exciting gameplay. Really, the overall experience is an absolute slog to push through. If you want a zombie-themed rail shooter for the Nintendo DS, you're better off playing Little Red Riding Hood Zombie Barbecue. It has some performance issues, but it's still a much more fun and challenging game. Plus, the overall art direction is much more interesting. The last game on our list is Volume 61 of Simple 2000, the Onechan Bada. The title is a portmanteau of Onechan, meaning big sister or young lady, and Chanbada, meaning sword fight. This is by far the most popular of the Simple series games, and since its initial release, has spawned several sequels up to the PS4 era, and even has 2 live-action film adaptations. In Europe, this was originally called Zombie Zone. Later, it received an enhanced re-release called Zombie Zone The Other Side that featured added quality of life improvements, and is the one I played for this video. The game has you playing as a young woman named Aya, who was trained by her father to be a master swordsman. One day, her father was ambushed and killed, and the person responsible for it was none other than Aya's own secret half-sister Saki. Now, Aya's on a quest for revenge to kill her murderous sibling. And who better to stop the zombie apocalypse than a chick in a bikini, cowboy hat, and extra long scarf? This is a Muso-style hack-and-slash game, where you slice and dice through large hordes of zombies in order to proceed. With your sword, you're able to execute a variety of combos and types of attacks. You're also able to perform wide kicks, which won't do much in the way of damage, but can give you a bit of breathing room by knocking away several enemies at once. At the end of each stage, you're able to allocate points into different stats, which will carry through subsequent playthroughs. There are 2 unique mechanics I thought were pretty interesting. The first is a sword fatigue indicator. As you cut through enemies, your sword becomes increasingly covered in blood. At full sword fatigue, your blade might get stuck inside an enemy, which leaves you vulnerable to attacks. So it's a good idea to periodically switch the blood off with a satisfying splash. There's also the blood frenzy meter. While killing enemies, your blood frenzy meter will gradually increase, and picking up red orbs dropped by fallen foes will further increase it. You'll also notice that Aya becomes more and more dripping in blood as he reaches closer to blood frenzy mode. At full blood frenzy, your movement speed significantly increases, as well as your attack power. There is a catch, however. Staying in blood frenzy mode will cause your health to decrease, and will eventually kill you if left unaddressed. This can be remedied by using an angel statue to reset it. As far as hack-and-slash action games go, this one is pretty good, especially considering its low budget. The controls work great, and it's easy to execute the kinds of attacks that you want. There's a lot of challenge to it as well, but even as I kept dying, I still found myself ready to try again right where I left off. That being said, I did cut my losses by the second boss battle by playing on easy mode. As much as I would love to spend hours finding the optimal way to cut down this prissy-ass Wolverine wannabe, I had a video to make. Speaking of which, there's a pretty decent variety of enemies you'll encounter, with varying types of attacks. They'll also gradually lose body parts as they're slashed at, which will encourage you to change tactics. For example, some enemies will have projectile attacks, which can be avoided with a well-timed kick or sword swipe. However, they can't use their long-ranged weapons if they don't have any hands. Big surprise, huh? So it might be a wise idea to begin focusing on any range-wielding enemies that are near you. The bosses are also unique in design and technique, and definitely worthy foes. This includes a giant undead baby, which feels just a little bit messed up. The only real complaint that I had was that I thought some of the zombie killing sections went on for a bit too long. This is especially evident with these armored zombies, where you need to be in blood frenzy mode in order to kill them, which can take a little while to get to. At first I thought that I might have missed something during some of these parts, but nope, they're just that long. I'm also well aware of the fact that playing as a young lady in a pretty outrageous outfit while fighting zombies is kind of ridiculous to say the least. But I think the developers were more than well aware of the fact that the protagonist's outfit is just as silly as it is fanservice-y, and weren't exactly trying to make a gritty and grounded zombie narrative. If nothing else, it certainly makes the game stand out. And personally, I definitely say I like this game enough to get me curious to play some of the many other entries in the series. What that will be, who knows? But hopefully you enjoyed this taste of simple series-styled horror. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to click like, and subscribe if you want to see more.